Under the scorching sun of the Yoruba village, the usual afternoon quiet was shattered by the angry shouts coming from the Akinwale compound. Dayo, the eldest son, stood before his father, Mr. Taiwo Akinwale, with fists clenched and anger boiling in his eyes. "So you think you can just steal what belongs to me?" Dayo accused, voice trembling with rage. Mr. Akinwale looked away, avoiding his son's fiery gaze. "It's not like that, Dayo. I didn't mean for things to happen this way." "But they did, Baba. You took my inheritance. You spent it all." Dayo's words echoed like sharp stones in the silent compound, attracting curious neighbors. Inside the dimly lit living room, Dayo's younger sister, Miriam, watched from the corner, her heart heavy with unease. The room felt different, colder somehow. Was this the same father who had been her hero? Dayo paced the room. "Baba, I worked hard, all those years in the city, and you spent it on a foolish business scheme?" Mr. Akinwale's voice was barely a whisper. "I thought I could make it multiply for you, my son." "You thought wrong," Dayo interrupted, bitterness lacing his words. The tension was suffocating. Miriam mustered the courage to speak up, her small voice cutting through the discord. "Baba," she said softly, "why didn't you tell Dayo before?" Mr. Akinwale sighed, rubbing his weary eyes. "I was trying to fix it before he returned." Dayo shook his head, unable to believe what he was hearing. "Fix what? You've lost everything, Baba. There's nothing left." That evening, as the shadows lengthened, Dayo sat outside the compound, staring blankly at the sky, his heart aching. His childhood friend, Tunde, approached, wary of the storm brewing in Dayo's heart. "Dayo, what happened? I heard shouting," Tunde inquired, trying to understand the storm within his friend. Dayo looked away, struggle and betrayal evident in his eyes. "Tunde, my father gambled away my inheritance. Everything I saved to build a future, gone." Tunde nodded slowly, sensing the depth of his friend's despair. "What will you do now?" The next day, whispers filled the village as neighbors gossiped about the Akinwale family's plight. Mrs. Okanlawan, the local market woman, shook her head as she recounted the tale to her customers. "Dayo was always the responsible one," she said, slicing yams with precision. "And for his father to do this, ah!" Across the market, Dayo walked with his head low, the weight of disgrace pressing down on him. Back home, as dusk settled in, Mr. Akinwale sat at the table, with his head in his hands. Dayo approached, the air tense with unspoken words. "Baba," Dayo began, struggling to keep his voice steady. "I trusted you. Now, there's a debt to repay and a reputation to regain." "I know, my son," Mr. Akinwale replied, his voice heavy with regret. "Please give me time to make it right." The betrayal cut deeper than Dayo imagined. As night fell, he lay on his mat, unable to sleep. Thoughts tumbled through his mind, his savings, his trust, his future. Miriam crept in quietly, sitting beside him. "Dayo, I wish things were different," she murmured. He sighed heavily. "I have to fix this, Miriam. I have to get back what is mine." "But how?" Miriam's question lingered in the air. The following days passed in a blur of frustration and helplessness for Dayo. He spent hours wandering the village, avoiding the stares of those who pitied him and the questions of those who gossiped. In the evening, he found himself at the village square, where whispers always traveled faster than the wind. Dayo overheard two men discussing a man named Kunle, known for his dubious ways but also his ability to make things happen. "He can get you your revenge," one man said, an idea taking root in Dayo's mind. Desperation nudged Dayo to seek out Kunle, a man whose reputation preceded him. The first meeting was terse, Kunle's gaze sharp as he sized Dayo up. "You've got a problem, young man," Kunle said, leaning back in his chair. "And I've got a solution, but it won't be easy." Dayo nodded, determination burning in his eyes. "I'll do whatever it takes." "Good," Kunle replied, a slow smile creeping over his lips. "We'll teach your father a lesson he won't forget." Days turned into a haze as Dayo plunged into actions he never imagined he'd take, guided by Kunle's ruthless advice. The village buzzed with rumors of payback tangled in whispers about spirits and curses. Miriam noticed the change, her brother's smile replaced with a hardened look. Confronted, Dayo dismissed her worries. "Don't worry about it, Miriam," he assured, though deep inside, the struggle twisted his every thought. "I'm fixing things." The plot grew darker, the risks higher. Dayo found himself in the company of men who spoke in hushed tones, who believed in actions that skirted the thin line between right and wrong. One night, as he sat by the fire listening to Kunle's plan, doubt crept in, a whisper in the back of his mind that threatened to unravel everything. Was it revenge he truly sought, or the hope of regaining a lost future? Tensions reached boiling point. Another confrontation with Mr. Okenwell left both father and son raw with emotion. "You've changed," Mr. Okenwell said, eyes narrowed with suspicion as he looked at Dayo. This anger, it will only destroy you." "And what you did, Baba, that destroyed me first," Dayo shot back, his voice rising with each word. Silence followed, thicker than the humid night air. A confrontation loomed large, unspoken, yet inevitable. The village was abuzz with speculation, everyone holding their breath for what lay ahead. They gathered in the square, hoping for drama, but deeper, hoping the family would heal. Casting a glance at Mariam, Dayo took a deep breath, ready to face whatever came next. Just as tension seemed ready to ignite, Kunle approached with grave news, a twist Dayo never saw coming. "Your father, he's in trouble," Kunle said, urgency in his voice. "Deep debts, not just to you. There's a threat, a hospital visit." "Debts?" Dayo's eyes widened as the gravity of the situation unveiled itself, exposing a network of consequences he hadn't anticipated. At the hospital, Dayo found his father on a bed, frail and fighting for breath. "Dayo, my son," he gasped, clutching Dayo's hand. "I've wronged you. I tried to fix it, but I failed." Dayo, caught between rage and fear, shook his head, his heart pounding with uncertainty. "Baba!" His words were interrupted by a doctor's approach, their news heavy, thrusting Dayo into a new realm of decisions and realizations, one that would test his heart and his will. Would he continue on a path of retribution or find a way back to what mattered most? Dayo stood over his father's frail form, words caught in his throat. The doctor's news was dire. His father required an expensive surgery to clear the debt he owed to both his son and fate. "What options do I have?" Dayo asked, his voice a strangled whisper. The doctor glanced away. "There's little time," he admitted, his words heavy. Turning back to his father, Dayo's mind spun, caught between vengeance and the tugging heartstrings of filial duty. Dayo left his father's bedside, his thoughts scattered like dry leaves in the Harmattan wind. The chill of the hospital corridor bit into him as he replayed Kunle's offer in his mind like a poisoned promise. He needed to make a call. Swallowing his pride and shame, he stepped outside and dialed Tunde's number, his hands trembling. "Tunde," Dayo started, his voice cracking. "I need your help. My father, he's fighting for his life." Tunde's response was immediate and soothing, a balm on Dayo's frayed nerves. "I'm on my way." As they sat together in the hospital's waiting area, Tunde leaned forward, his eyes earnest. "What were you planning to do with Kunle?" Dayo hesitated, shame coloring his cheeks. I wanted my revenge. I wanted him to suffer like I did." Tunde frowned, shaking his head. "Dayo, I've known you my whole life. This isn't you." "But what else can I do?" Dayo asked, his voice anguished. "He's the reason my future crumbled." Tunde placed a hand on his shoulder, a gentle weight. "Maybe, but do you think revenge will heal you?" Caught in the web of emotional conflict, Dayo's resolve began to falter. As he mulled over Tunde's words, Mariam arrived at the hospital, her eyes puffy and red but determined. She drew closer, her voice a whisper only her brother could hear. "Dayo, we need to pray. I know what Baba did was wrong, but he's still our father." Dayo shook his head, retreating into his hardened shell. "Pray? What good is prayer now? It's too late." Tunde interjected gently. "It's never too late for God, Dayo. Isn't that what Mommy taught us?" That night, Dayo sat alone, rain softly tapping against the window. Memories of his mother flooded back, her soft hymns drifting through the house, the way her faith was woven into every fiber of their lives. His heart ached with longing, and for the first time, he allowed himself to think past anger. What if Tunde is right? What if revenge only deepens the wound? He wondered aloud. Slowly, almost gingerly, Dayo lowered himself to his knees, feeling the cold tiles beneath his skin. His heart pounded, desperate to be heard. The words finally came, raw and unpolished. "Lord," Dayo began, voice thick with emotion, "I'm lost. I got consumed by my pain, and I thought hurting Baba would make it better. But it hasn't. Show me the way." Tears flowed freely, each drop a testament to the burden lifting. As Dayo sat there, a calmness he hadn't felt in years slowly seeped in, filling the crevices of his troubled heart. Behind him, he felt a presence. Miriam was there, joining him in silent prayer, her hand resting gently on his shoulder. The next morning, Dayo met Kunli at their usual spot, determined to end the dark path he'd tread. Kunli, sensing the change, raised an eyebrow. "Changed your mind?" he asked with mock disappointment. Dayo nodded firmly. "I have. I need to make things right, not worse. Revenge isn't the answer, Kunle." Kunli shrugged, unperturbed. "Suit yourself, but you might regret this." "Maybe," Dayo admitted. "But I'll take a chance on something more than spite. I'm done letting this anger control me." Returning to the hospital, Dayo entered his father's room, the strained air still lingering. Mr. Akinwale looked up, surprised by the determination on his son's face. "Dayo, I didn't—" he started, but Dayo held up a hand, stopping him. "I know, Baba. I'm not here to argue. I'm here to say, we will figure this out, together." Mr. Akinwale's eyes brimmed with tears. "I don't deserve such kindness, my son." "Maybe not," Dayo said softly. "But I realize now that forgiveness is my choice, not yours to earn." With newfound resolve, Dayo took small but brave steps to mend what was broken. He negotiated with the hospital for a payment plan and sought help from family and the church, their hearts united in unexpected generosity. The community rallied, reminded of the strength in unity and compassion, with Tunde at Dayo's side, a constant pillar of faith. On a quiet Sunday morning, as they gathered in the family's compound, Pastor Olumide visited, his presence carrying a calming warmth. "I heard of the trouble," he said, his voice like a gentle stream. "God has a strange way of bringing us back when we wander too far." Dayo nodded, understanding at last. "I thought my father's mistakes defined us. I see now, we're defined by his grace, not my father's faults." The pastor clasped Dayo's hand, his eyes filled with understanding. "You did well, choosing redemption over retribution." As the sun set, Dayo found his father watching the horizon, the air peaceful. "Why did you let go of revenge?" Mr. Akinwale asked, his voice barely more than a whisper. Dayo sighed, looking towards the vanishing sun. "It nearly consumed me, Baba. But Tunde, Mariam, and our mother's lessons taught me to choose something greater, something that couldn't be stolen." "Faith," his father concluded. "Faith," Dayo confirmed, smiling. Their journey was not perfect, but with each step it grew lighter. The scars remained, but with them reminders of God's mercy, a testament in every whispered prayer and shared silence. As Dayo and his family started anew, the community witnessed true healing, an act of God through youthful courage and learning that transcends mere vengeance. Dayo stood outside the family compound, Bible in hand, watching the vibrant night sky. "Forgiveness isn't weakness, you know. It's warfare," Dayo observed quietly to Mariam, who joined him. "Spiritual warfare," Mariam agreed, her voice rich with understanding. The stars twinkled above them, and Dayo knew that within each scar, love and forgiveness laid the strength of a family united not by perfection but by grace. A family willing to let their brokenness be woven into strength by the hand of God. And in that quiet harmony, Dayo felt at peace.
Thank you so much for listening to this intriguing story. I hope it touched you or taught you something. For more stories like this, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the page. And guys, if you'd like to see a part 2, or you have thoughts on what happened, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. See you in the next story.